What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology. The Titans action spawning in the blue color, playing as Odin. His name is Suppe. His opponent today in the red color, playing as Odin as well. His name is mrboat. And Mr. Boat doing the cheeky here, pulling the Auroch in. We'll see Suppe most likely do exactly the same thing here as well. But yet again, we are seeing that differential in build order starting up. I love it. I love that players have figured out different ways to play this game after all of this time has passed. Like Suppe figuring out, and Yoshi and these Norse players figuring out that rushing hunting dogs, you don't have to do it. Obviously, hunting dogs is a must-grab technology, but you don't have to rush those. Well, this is dangerous here. Surely you would rather take the damage on the villages and pull it back to the town center than block it, but apparently not. Anyways, Suppe gonna have to get himself out an ox cart now. Anyways, let's. This is actually now advantage Mr. Boat here, in all honesty, because he's not having to build that ox cart, which means he's got 9 seconds more gather time, which does kind of make up for, in terms of every single villager that comes out from this moment till the ox cart gets built. So I would say, after all is said and done, that Mr. Boat has the advantage here. Anyways. Neither here nor there. My point being, 20 years going by, new build orders still being created here is absolutely awesome to see. And I hope that everyone continues to be creative in that sense with the way that they open up the game and all of the other crazy stuff that they can figure out within the confinements of this age mythology game that we've been given and that we love. At the top side of the map here, we do have some relics that have been uncovered. We've got the Blanket of Empress Zoe. Over down at the bottom here, we do have the Tower of Cestus. Now, the map is Gold Rush, and this map here, very, very different map to Frozen Wastes. So different, in fact, that it's basically a polar opposite of Frozen Wastes. Except for the fact that the outsides are unbuildable. That's the same thing there. So, what's different? Well, the gold mines, instead of being on the outside of the map, they're on the inside of the map. The hunt, instead of it being on the inside of the map, it's on the outside of the map. There you go. Suppe chopping a temple down. The other thing that's different here is that you always get, and it's not exactly different, it's only 50% of the time different, but you always get 2 gold mines on Gold Rush. And what does this mean? Well, it means that rushing really is not that important here. And I would be surprised to see a Heimdall rush here from Suppe. Though he does love Heimdall, he's probably going to pick it just out of... No, he doesn't, see? Yes, we got it right. So, the thing is here, Heimdall rush on this map, 2 gold mines to push off, all the hunt in the main base, plus the cows here. You're not going to find that much advantage with Heimdall here. Whereas you're going to find a lot of advantage with Freya. You're going to easily be able to afford to build those Valkyries, which are going to be much, much more strong than the Einhjar. One of the big reasons why Heimdall is so strong is that the Einhjar cost gold. And gold is a very, very easy resource to come by for Norse. But if there is tons of hunt and there's tons of herdables and everything, there's a lot of stuff on the map, then... or in terms of food and resources, then Valkyries, there's no real difference between building a Valkyrie and building an Einhjar. It just comes down to the macro, making sure you have a lot of gatherers on hunt versus a lot of dwarves on gold. And that's not that hard, in all honesty. You just have to play your macro correctly. Obviously, it's easier to just spam dwarves, but that's neither here nor there, as we do see the Tower of Cestus does get grabbed. A longhouse going to be getting thrown up here. And look at the difference in score. I don't want to pause. Look at the difference in score right now. 582 for Suppe, 557 for Mr. Boat. And this is all based on that opening build order, you'd have to assume here. It's absolutely wild how much of a difference this makes. Look at the resource differential. It's very, very slight amounts of resource differential, but Soup's just got that advantage after all is said and done. And he gets a villager kill! We do see Forest Fire gets dropped. No villager kill here for Mr. Boat, but somehow Soup gets a villager kill here in the early game with that Valkyrie, as Mr. Boat was not paying attention. That is a huge advantage here for Soup here in the early game. An absolute gigantic advantage. As you do see the Valkyrie moving back up to the top corner of the map here. We've got Herso coming out. Ulfsark getting started to train here for Soup. Ulfsark, I do agree that in the Norse War, you should build Ulfsark to start off most of the time. Most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time. But going mass Ulfsark, not the right call probably all of the time. You want to start with some Ulfsark to give you a couple more infantry units so that you can build more buildings, build more walls, or put pressure onto your opponent's secondary hunt. Now, on this map here against Odin, you're probably not going to be able to find that value, but you also want to have those Ulfsarks to defend. And after you build the Ulfsarks, you actually want to go into raiding cavalry as well. So you have, especially with Odin, maybe not so much with Thor, but especially, actually maybe also with Thor because you have pick sticker, but especially with Odin, especially on high hunt maps, Ulfsark raiding cavalry is the composition you want in this Norse War. I see people go raiding cavalry, throw an axeman. I don't believe it works versus a solid Ulfsark, Lone Wanderer, Ulfsark raiding cavalry composition. I don't think that the throw and axemen are actually a useful unit. And we are seeing Mr. Boat going full raiding cavalry at this point as the Ulfsark, not Ulfsark, but the units are moving across here to check this out. The Raven sees those villagers moving up to the top corner of the map here. Mr. Boat has moved across the map without really any knowledge here at this point. He doesn't see anything to attack at this point. The Raven's flying overhead on both of the hunt patches. He moves out of his base and he's going to be in for a rude awakening as those Ulfsarks do catch the raiding cavalry out and they're going to have to pull back. At this point now, we'll most likely see Mr. Boat going in with, I assume he would start throwing axemen here, but he is starting to make some Ulfsark himself as an option here to try and deal with the Ulfsark that that Soup is making here. And Soup is now throwing out his own throwing axemen as well. Raiding cavalry starting to come out as the villagers move over onto this boar. The Raven does spot that there as the army is in a defensive position. Mr. Boat at 69 population, Soup's at 72 population. This is where we'll see if this early game decision that Soup has made is going to be working out for him or not, as he dives head first into this army. Throwing axemen going after each other here as one throwing axeman goes down, two throwing axemen goes down. The trading here, very, very brutal. Nice micro at this point for Mr. Boat here. He does have that defender's advantage as well in this fight. Villagers getting pulled off of the food line here to help out as Mr. Boat's population does start to drop. Soup is winning this fight ever so slightly, but with the villagers pulling in, that's going to be a huge support here in this fight as Soup manages to keep his Valkyrie alive for the time being. He will be retreating away as Soup here does drop down in population ever so slightly. And Mr. Boat, 59-62, still very, very equal in terms of that population as the unit's still trying to fight this one here. I think Mr. Boat, he needs to continue taking this fight here if he can, as the Ulfsark retreating away. Villagers moving up to the Aurochs as well, going to be giving a little bit of reprieve here for Mr. Boat. Also, the Ox card has been pulled. That's an interesting pull there. It is 180 HP with decent armor to just have in the fight to block. But while this is all going on, Soup, he doesn't need to fight here. All he needs to do is pull back and forward as those villagers aren't all gathering, and that gives him a slight advantage here. And you can see that advantage is manifesting in population here. As 84 population to 75 population, Soup is climbing in front here at this point as the army of Mr. Boat sitting on the back here, waiting, watching. We do see the raiding cavalry coming in onto this position as well as the Valkyrie, for some reason, sitting on the back here, healing up the Herser here. It's a very, very small amount of health here. The Throwing Axeman doing a good job on the back here, sniping units here for Mr. Boat as this fight is continuing. But Soup here is in a really good position. 77 population to Mr. Boat's 57 population here. As those Throwing Axemen on the back here, they have been defended nicely by the villagers, but the villager differential is still very equal after all is said and done here. Looks like Soup's been cutting villagers to some degree, or not really picking villagers off, as all of Mr. Boat's units here seemingly have been taken out as Soup pulls back in onto this fight. He's got a handful of Ulfsark coming in to clean up the remainder of those Throwing Axemen here as well. Mr. Boat pulls back into his main base, and after all is said and done here, Mr. Boat is yet again found himself at a 20 population deficit. He's down 2 villages. He's grabbing himself watchtowers. He does still have plenty of herdables remaining in his base. Does he have himself husbandry or not is the big question. No husbandry, but it is coming through. So that's going to be honestly completely fine here for Mr. Boat. He does have to worry about this medium gold mine down the bottom. He probably should think about walling up those towers over here because those are going to be open. Soup is continuing to build his Ulfsark in this game as well, as the dwarves moving forward onto the large gold mine on this position here. As I like that play from Soup. I think this is a fantastic idea on this map. This is 100% something you should be doing if you get an advantage or your opponent plays defensive on Gold Rush. Grab the 4 gold mine. Leave that gold mine in your base for just in case. Because that gold mine in your base, 3,000 gold there, means that any sort of timing push that a defensive player might want to try and do is going to be much, much less effective. You can just retreat. You can grab the gold in your main base. Happy days. So I love that play from Soup here. Though that being said, I don't feel like Mr. Boat is ever going to be able to push out onto this map. There's going to be a chance here that Mr. Boat will push out with a frost or something and try and grab this gold mine. I imagine Soup here is going to have to figure out how he's going to try and defend this gold mine. It's all things considered. Aurora Borealis coming through here for Soup as well as he's building out all the Valkyrie that he can at this point from that temple. He's just going full send. As it seems, instead of building raiding cavalry, why build raiding cavalry when you can build Valkyrie? As they are honestly just as potent as a raiding cavalry are, if not more potent against those Throwing Axemen. As Soup says, you know what? I can just push in underneath the town center fire, 2 tower fire, and just the army of Mr. Boat. Mr. Boat just doesn't have the units here, it seems, to defend here on this fight. But we'll see how it's going to go. Dwarves getting taken out. Units retreating back. Throwing Axemen doing some nice defensive positioning here after all is said and done. But there's no Herser to deal with these shield maiden Valkyrie. As a Valkyrie does pop out here for Mr. Boat to help defend. And it looks to me like Mr. Boat has kind of defended here to some degree. And not only that, Mr. Boat is caught up on villager production here. He's at 35 villages. He's in a completely fine position after all is said and done. He's still behind on the population, but playing defensively here for Mr. Boat is working a treat as his villagers do return back over onto the gold mine. He should be a little bit more careful, making sure the dwarves pull off that hunt, come back, or not hunt, back off the cows over onto the gold mine here. He does only have a little bit of cow left in his main base, but Mr. Boat's got to be happy about that choice that Soup had made there. The big thing question you have to ask yourself when you push into your opponent's base underneath towers is, do you have armory upgrades, for one? But more importantly is, how much population does my opponent have versus how much population do I have? And then you add the population your opponent has onto how many towers and town centers your opponent has. So the towers and town center are effectively worth around about 4 population each in terms of DPS. So if you are sitting here looking at this, you got to go, okay, my opponent here has got an extra 12 population in, is that how math works? Yes. 12 population in terms of defense here. And if you're only 12 population in front, it might not be the best idea to be attacking this location here because you're going to be basically losing in that fight. So to see a very cheeky town center getting grabbed here by Soup. Does Mr. Boat see that? Mr. Boat does see that town center going up, but can Mr. Boat do anything about that? He's going to be moving across the map here, looking for something else to target down. I do think that Mr. Boat going for a mythic age, not a mythic age, a heroic age here wouldn't be a bad idea as the villagers retreating back. It was a really nice defensive positioned wall here he could have retreated through, but the raiding cavalry push in here. They're going to take a lot of villagers out, or at least do a lot of damage to these villagers as they do pull back inside of that town center as the units here pushing the dwarves off of that gold mine here. Now, Suppe's completely fine here to just pull back into his base. He has gathered the 3,000 gold at this point. Had Suppe not been on that gold mine here, he most likely would have had to be pushing forward at this exact moment. So you can see how much value that's been, as we do also see a watchtower getting dropped here by Suppe to push off of that home gold mine of Mr. Boat. But Mr. Boat here, he can pull back. He can move into the center of the map here. He can take fights in the center of the map. Suppe at this point is only at 83 population. Suppe's dropped population quite considerably here, but in the end, he doesn't really matter. Villages falling here, 40 villages for, or 39 now for Mr. Boat, as we do see those Valkyries coming back. The Shield Maiden Valkyries of Suppe have fallen in number as the Thrown Axemen do find 5 villages over on this position to take out. As we do see those, look at the Valkyrie that Mr. Boat has made here. We see Thundering Hooves coming through for Suppe as well. As the units coming in onto this position, the Thrown Axemen taking this fight, but it does look like Mr. Boat should be able to win this one. He does have a considerable amount of Thrown Axemen more than Suppe does at this point, as the Valkyrie push in onto this location, taking out those Thrown Axemen as best as they possibly can. The Valkyrie coming through here for Suppe as well. You've got to be a little bit careful here from the side of Mr. Boat, because you need your Valkyrie to actually target your opponent's Valkyrie down. They do a ton more damage than Suppe's Valkyrie do a ton more damage than Mr. Boat's do at this point, and he does manage to start targeting those down nicely there, as Mr. Boat he's in a great position. He is finding some value here, moving into the center of the map to grab this gold mine. He can move back up to eat the Aurochs here if he so chooses as well. As Lone Wanderer coming through, Suppe's got a ton of resources here. Suppe needs to throw down some military buildings. He needs more longhouses. He's getting some Ulfsark out. Throw down like 3 or 4 more longhouses at this point, as we do see longhouses going up in the center of the map. But Mr. Boat's army is very, very strong here at this point. Very strong. He's got a ton of Valkyrie. He's got those Thrown Axemen out. The only real thing that you could counter this army with would be mass raiding cavalry and Valkyrie yourself. You can't really go with Herso here, because the Thrown Axemen are going to be able to deal with those Herso really, really easily. As the Valkyrie run in onto this location, you do have to be careful with those. As the unit's now pushing forward, yet again, Suppe is grabbing a lot of that gold here. The other thing here for Suppe is he's out of hunt at this position here. I told a lie. He's stealing Mr. Boat's hunt on the front. So he's got that. We do see the villagers back over onto this location, eating the hunt over here as well. There seems to be some bears up the top here, some boars over here as well for Suppe. So that's a big, big help for him, as well as the raiding cavalry coming back over here, trying to get some pressure done. Mr. Boat's got plenty of gold in the bank, as we are now starting to see some raids coming forward onto this position, up onto this location here, as the unit's kind of getting a little bit distracted, as the Shieldman Valkyrie coming back for Mr. Boat to defend that raid there. As Suppe is getting closer and closer to his population, he has a significant villager advantage here at this point. So he's getting a bit of an income advantage here to push that production back up, as we see 4 military buildings down, 5 if you include the temple, but he's not really utilizing that one at the moment. But a significant military advantage is about to form here for Suppe. Not only that, I imagine he's probably going to be able to get to the heroic age really, really soon, and he's now moving forward onto that second gold mine. Mr. Boat needs to take this opportunity now to start putting pressure onto that gold mine. He needs to attack now and not wait. We do see an armory coming up, hitting a frost onto these dwarves and onto an army is going to be huge. The villagers retreating back here as the raiding cavalry are going to be searching for them. Maybe Mr. Boat should have been a little bit more careful with these villagers and pulling them back into his main base, because that's going to be a huge amount of damage. But Mr. Boat now can put pressure onto the dwarves, so it will be, at the very worst, a slight trade here for Mr. Boat, as the dwarves have to pull back. But Suppe's got plenty of gold in the bank, so a gold starve at this moment, it's not going to be game ending here for Suppe. As he does pull away, we do see the raiding cavalry coming onto those villages into the center of the map. It's a very, very difficult time to play in this game for both players. As the Valkyrie coming back, both players click up through Skadi for the time being. Villagers getting sniped, raiding cavalry retreating away. Nice play there as the dwarves moving up to the top side of the map here. There's still bears remaining. The dwarves going to jump onto the large gold mine here as well. Farms are down for Suppe here as well. One thing that Mr. Boat can do, or should do, is he's hitting that heroic age. Or he's not hitting the heroic age first. I thought he was, but Suppe here is going to be able to hit the crazy frost onto this location. Mr. Boat needs to split up these villages. He needs to split up these villages like yesterday. We see a watchtower coming down onto this position. Love that play from Suppe, playing nice and defensive where that's concerned. 80%, that's 16 seconds away from a very, very difficult to survive frost timing attack as the raiding cavalry pushing through here. Copper weapons coming through as well for Suppe to help him out in this fight as the army, 130 population versus 115 population. Frost gets dropped down onto this location, immediately hitting 17 gatherers. 5 dwarves here. The frost about to hit for Mr. Boat as well, as I'm sure he's going to drop that immediately on this position as well. But after all is said and done, the villagers still get to gather here. Heavy cavalry coming through, copper weapons coming through. This is so much advantage for Suppe here in this game. Not only that, there's a handful of units alive here for Suppe, and there's only, there's a couple getting built into the longhouse here for Mr. Boat as well. The thing here that Suppe can do, because he's gathering resources, he can actually drop that market. He can trade some gold here first and foremost if he needs to, or you can just go, basically you can just go Mythic Age. Does he have a market going up anywhere on the map? That's the question. I don't see the market anywhere. All the units being utilized in this fight here. We see a hill fort getting dropped down. Whether or not that's going to be able to come up in time or not remains to be seen. Heavy Raiders is through for Suppe. Versing those medium throw and action is going to be a very difficult fight to win here. We do see that the Frost Giant has won the battle here after all is said and done, as Suppe's Frost Giant there does get caught out. The Valkyrie doing a nice job defending here for Suppe, for Mr. Boat, excuse me, but Suppe here, he's got plenty of Valkyrie on the back to fight through this as the throw and axeman popping out of this location. The hill fort looking like it's just about to finish here. As heavy infantry coming through for Suppe as well. Irrigation coming through for Mr. Boat as he's starting those farms up. 115 population staying very, very nice and strong here for Mr. Boat as Suppe is falling ever so slightly in this fight, it seems. As more Frost Giants coming through for Mr. Boat. A third Town Center coming down on the bottom there for Suppe as well to help him push forward in this game. As everything that matters here in this game is basically, honestly, the first person to Ragnarok here. Well, not really the first person to Ragnarok, but you basically need to get to Ragnarok in a decent enough time. If I saw all of these upgrades coming through for Suppe, I would literally be thinking, okay, if I rag now, I can gold starve and I can prevent Suppe from getting to the Mythic Age here, most likely. So a Ragnarok here from Mr. Boat would be a very, very big moment here. But it seems to me that Mr. Boat is throwing hill forts up. He's throwing buildings, getting that market up. He's got a lot of gold in the bank. He can buy that food if he so chooses. As we do see the Frost Giant comes to a bit of a micro mistake there from Mr. Boat, misclicking or not paying attention to his Frost Giant, as the Frost Giant does manage to freeze the enemy Frost Giant, meaning he will be able to win that fight there. And the Frost Giant numbers are starting to pick up here for Suppe as he's pushing through, taking villages off of this gold mine here as well, as the army's still trying to fight back. Mr. Boat has his market up. He can buy that food to go to the Mythic Age. He only needs to buy about 650 food here. Not that much, 700 food. But he's opting to get other stuff. Irrigation, fortified town centers coming through for Suppe, as well as the villagers are going to be retreating off of this location, moving up to the top gold mine here as well. Throwing action coming up here to try and grab this town center, it seems, for Mr. Boat. Does he have the time to do that or not is the big question. And here, Suppe's economy is starting to pick up. His town center comes through. He's at 144 of 145 population. He's just about to be able to click up to the Mythic Age, and he has the market as that town center is going to come through, and we get an out of sync. You hate to see it. I'm going to see if I can find where this game came from. But apparently this game has gone out of sync. I believe it was Matrius who was casting it. So we'll see if Matrius has got that game somewhere in the thing, and we'll try and continue from that point. Where would it be? Let me see. We got to find the video. Hang on. I think we can. Excuse me. Ads are not what we're after here. Where would it be? I think if we hit. Actually, let me hit this button so we don't get any spoilers here. Oh, game crashed and they gave Suppe the win. There's no other recorded game. Game ends there. Okay, well, it looks like Mr. Boat tapped out. Unfortunate. Well, an unfortunate end to the series. I do think that I think if you were to watch that game out, what would have most likely happened is that I imagine Suppe would have hit the Mythic Age first. He would have clicked Ragnarok. Mr. Boat would have retreated back. Most likely clicked Ragnarok himself. Huge fight. Suppe would have won because he has more villagers than, or more Rag heroes than Mr. Boat, and the game would have ended there. That's my guess. Apologies for the, this is what we have to deal with in Age Mythology, unfortunately. Hopefully it's different in Retold. If you guys enjoyed the game, please consider to follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.